What are some luxury items which you never knew existed, which only the mega rich can afford, that blows your mind and you wouldn't mind having, or is just an example of how people have too much money and not enough sense? Seasonal furniture. Meaning their house is furnished multiple different ways, furniture included, and they pay someone to store it and swap it out a couple of times a year. Seems easier to just have a different house for every season, right? Why use the same house all year round like a peasant? The wealthy version of a public storage unit. An exceptionally wealthy family I know refers to a wing of the local art museum as their public storage unit. They funded the wing to store their huge collection of classic and modern art since it was more practical than private storage. It included a climate-controlled, 24/7 secure location managed by professionals. Plus, the curators would handle the swapping out of pieces from the museum and the home when they needed a different style or era to fit the mood of the next dinner or event at the house. Which was funny because sometimes the swaps would introduce a dozen or so pieces not before displayed at the museum, essentially creating a new exhibit that the museum would package and promote. Behind the fuss, the family just wanted to create the right ambience for grandma's 80th birthday party. As I'm a plumber, I recently installed a smart shower which I've known about. But this one had to rainfall heads 8 body sprays. The unit also has a sauna steamer built in and can connect to your phone. So when you're driving down your street you can pick the aroma you'd like and set the temp of your shower so when you walk in it's just ready for you. I used to work for an engineering firm and we did the engineering, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, fire protection, for high-end residential and make. There was a client who owned a floor in an apartment building on Central Park West. The people below him moved out so he bought that floor to host parties. He had a 6 inches thick sound and vibration dampening system installed on that level so he wouldn't bother the people that lived below. The building was old and the existing elevator would not stop the additional 6 inches higher on that floor only, so he installed a new elevator in the building. He also paid for French plasterers to come and live in it while they do the ornate plaster crown molding in the apartment. Some of Tiffany & Co.'s Everyday Objects series, but especially this sterling silver coffee can for $1,550. I understand that it's an art object, and that silver is expensive, but the risk of tossing this thing out with the recycling is way too high. I wasn't expecting to literally just be a regular looking can. A guy in my town bought 4 plots of construction places for houses across the street and turned them into garden, solely so his view wouldn't be deteriorated. The plots were $500K each. My cousin's mansion has heated floors in the garage. He said it sounds really stupid, but when the weather is freezing, he just turns on the floor heat a few minutes before he's ready to leave and it warms up his car so he doesn't have to. Like, I don't personally need that in my life, but if I had it, I would use it. Edit. Okay, I get it. They're not just for rich people. I'm from an area where it doesn't usually get cold enough for heated floors to be a practical necessary expense, so I guess that's why I considered it a luxury. There's an area not far from where I am that's built on a mini mountain. It's not technically a mountain, but it's very steep and gets snowy. Steep roads, steep driveways. People there have heated driveways so they don't have to shovel it or have it freeze over. Many of them just leave it on when it gets close to zero because they don't want to wait if they want to go somewhere outside of their regular commuting time. And it's not like they're 3-5 parking driveways. They're proper 20-50. I don't want poor people to be able to see my house from the road gated driveways. Rotating garage floor. Owner hated idea of backing out of a garage. The floor would rotate 180 degrees when he's ready to drive out. I heard Tom Cruise doesn't want to look uncool by backing up his motorcycle when he drives it, so he pays someone to follow him, and after he parks his cycle someone would stop and turn it around while he does his business, and Tom can just jump on and drive straight ahead like a cool guy when he leaves. Some super yachts have support vessels or shadow yachts. It is essentially a second ship that follows you and your yacht and carries smaller boats, jet skis, helicopters, subs, you name it. Just the most exorbitant toy hauler. Snoop Dogg has a salaried blunt roller. He literally pays someone $50,000 a year just to roll him blunts all day. Sounds like the kind of job you give your best friend so they don't have to work and have an excuse to give their spouse so they can come hang out with you. I remember doing a job at a very rich family's country house in Denmark. They had around 20 horses there and staff hired to ride them because the family themselves had no time for that. I had a friend who sort of did that, the riding, and we ended up at dinner and the owner was like, well, why buy a $5,000 horse? A $500,000 horse costs the same to keep and they might earn you some money. I understood it, but damn. I know a couple who live in Nick who have a live-in nanny for their 2 dogs. They hire a different veterinary student every few years. The student gets their own suite, a town car, a generous salary in the high 5 figures, paid trips home twice yearly, and nice bonuses. Their only job is to care for the pets, including home cooking their meals, walks, training and any appointments. By all accounts, it's a pretty sweet gig. My uncle is a doctor. He has been the lead board member for the biggest hospital, and a world famous one, in my area for the last 4-5 years. Dude is loaded. So much so that I learned he has a personal tram, think ski lift, to his house. WTF. Never knew those were a thing. I know a few people whose parents had those. It's basically a necessity for where the houses were located. My wife's aunt and uncle have had one and it needs to basically be replaced, which is going to cost them well over $100k. Their property is basically a little portion up top with a garage to park cars and then down basically a giant cliff to their house, which is right down by the water. Since their tram has been down, they basically have to walk up and down a path with a bunch of switchbacks just to get to and from their house. They are well off, but not rich, hence why the tram hasn't been fixed yet. A tower building. Yes, that's right. A friend of mine is a real estate broker and someday a 29-year-old man came to his office to buy him a tower. When asked why he'd buy it, he said, "It's time for my father's name on the top of skyscraper." Then my friend asked, what would he do with it, since his office already in the satellite city? The man said, "Just rent it to the others. I only need my father's name on top of the building." Edit. Apparently for some people, owning a building with his/her name on top of it is a sign of how rich she is. My friend's boyfriend works for a racing team as a mechanic for the series below Formula 1. You know how you can buy a house on a golf course? Well, according to her, there are houses on racetracks, same concept as the golf course. That blew my mind. I once worked at a 24/7 call center that was mostly for a bunch of area hospitals and large clinics, but there were some private doctors as well. There was this one account for a concierge doctor for the super rich. My supervisor told me that they paid a membership fee every month. I don't recall the exact figure, but it was in the multiples of thousands of dollars, and they got this doctor on call for them whenever, wherever 24/7. Someone once called with a hangnail and the doctor went and attended to it. Canned air. It was a trend in China for a while. Rich people would get canisters of air from BAM for somewhere in Canada, and just take a few breaths of it at like parties or whatever. Tiffany sells a silver pencil cup that is styled after an aluminum can with no label. Tiffany's is absolutely bonkers in my poor person opinion. They had one at a mall I used to go to, and their prices are sky high for jewelry. I get you're buying the name and little blue box that they've rapidly pushed to people, but a ring shouldn't cost the same, or more, as my house. Food service. When I was young, my first serious girlfriend's family was super rich. Hundreds of millions rich. They had what I would learn was food service. This consisted of a woman who would show up in the morning at maybe 5:30 and stock the fridge and make sure the coffee was on the timer and there were fresh pastries, etc. At 7:30 the actual food service people would arrive with fresh food for the day and prep anything you wanted. If you wanted something special for dinner, say lobster thermidor, you just told them by 3 and it would be ready whenever you wanted. This included any snack you might want. Did you like the cheeseburger and want a few for later? Done. Every day the fridge would be stocked and cleaned out. It was ducking amazing. An excellent use of disposable income in my humble opinion. A house manager. They are a person that lives in a house that the rich person owns that stays there when the person is in one of their other homes. This person manages the house staff, makes sure the house is lived in so that the water is always working, any details that need doing get done, and that the house is ready for when the owner arrives. This job can also mean getting someone's wardrobe ready for the season for their arrival. I suppose I see it as extra because if you need more than one house, why, if you are not there to enjoy it? My boss, who's exorbitantly rich, tasks his employees to buy things for him, and recently asked the lab department to order a scale capable of measuring to the 0.001 of a gram. So I'd give him 3 options between $1,200 and $2,400 and he elected to go with the most costly version as it has a windscreen, and he wants it rushed and received ASAP. This scale is built when ordered, so we negotiate a fee of $800 to jump the line and have it delivered by our meeting in 3 days. Turns out his at-home scale that he uses to meal prep has gone out, and instead of buying batteries to replace, he decided to rush order a $2,400 scale that doesn't operate on batteries, so he can meal prep for next week. I'm from Ireland, so I'm gonna say horses. Rich people here love their high standard, thoroughbred horses. If you can afford race winning, stallion semen, you're doing well in life. Rich people are seriously obsessed with horse semen and who their mares duck. Back before Cleveland Clinic built their hospital in Dubai, the Middle East, and rich used to come here for organ transplants. They needed to stay for 6-8 weeks till they could go home to recover. My boss's husband worked in construction and got a job to modify a house for one of these guys. They picked out a house, offered the owners duck all money to get out in 48 hours. The crew came in and worked around the clock to modify the house. They flew in materials from all over the world. Marble, stonework, stained glass windows. Money was no object. Also, some rich oil dude can live in it for a couple of months and never come back. The underwater hotel suite in the Maldives. I get something like $250,000 to stay there. It's insanely cool looking though. I used to work on yachts when I was young, free and single. Some of the extravagant displays of wealth were simply appalling and frankly repugnant, but there was one that caught my eye and I still think about years, decades later. There's a Middle Eastern oil sheikh that visits a saddle rotator for all his clothing needs: shirts, suits, formal, informal, smoking, dinner, you name it, even down to his underwear. That's not extravagant. What comes next is, he buys 4 sets of every single item. He then has each wardrobe sent to one of his usual homes, his primary home, his villa in the south of France, his house in London, and his rather large Jean Palace motor yacht. Also that he doesn't have to worry about his luggage, he knows exactly what clothes he has when he arrives at the other end. No packing, no lost luggage worries, no crumpled shirts. No worries. I sometimes can't stop thinking how clever and liberating this must be, and yet how decadent this is both at the same time. Maybe it's just all of these, I don't know, but I'm impressed and horrified in equal measure. Shell companies. The massive and complex world that Mossack Fonseca created for some of the most insanely wealthy people in the world was outstanding. Definitely wouldn't mind having some shell companies to get some tax-free money. Most of the shit rich people spend their money blows my mind. My friend's family will spend thousands, even tens of thousands, of dollars on a purse, and I just can't understand the point. It's just a small bag. You could spend $10 and get something that works just as well, and may not even look hideous. Having collections of things such as those is completely nonsensical to me. Country club memberships. I always knew what they were but didn't realize how much they were and how it works. My in-laws belong to one. They pay $40,000 plus per year to golf and be members. Along with this membership, you are required to spend a minimum amount per month either playing golf, dining or whatever else you spend money on at these places. I believe the minimum at my in-laws' place is $800 per month. Nothing like $50K to find friends. Went to a billionaire's home who didn't have a pool. He had a man-made lake with an island in the middle and boats, jet skis. Been working at an ultra rich people house. By house I mean a kind of castle. There was 13 bathroom, a jacuzzi in every bedroom, a heated pool, a sauna plus hammam etc. Total cost of the rebuilding of the house, which didn't needed any work on it but never mind, was about 25 million euros. The guy and his family never slept in the house. They'd rather come to the house for an afternoon once or twice a year and go back to their mega yacht. Useless $1 million house. Birkin bags. They start at $10,000 and can go well into the six figures. Personally, I think a $250 Kate Spade purse is fancy. I was touring an business aircraft manufacturing plant, and in the finishing department they explained how the customer can get any interior they like, and he said the strangest request they had gotten was for the seats to be upholstered in whale pen 15 leather. They had to decline for legal reasons, they said. Apple recently released Bluetooth trackers called AirTags. They're all over tech news. Some luggage company called Hermes made an AirTag holder that costs over $500. It's a leather strap. You can insert one AirTag, and you wrap it around your luggage handle. Oh, and it costs more than their iPhone 12 case, which ostensibly uses more leather. You don't really need to be mega rich to afford the luggage tag. It's just ducking stupid. One of the investors of the previous company I used to work at was a billionaire. I didn't spend too much time with him, but he was always around during company parties and such, as were most of our early investors. The most wow moment was when he talked about his house in Telluride, Colorado. Nope, he's not a skier. Nope, he's not someone who likes the mountains. Nope, it's not some real estate that he's hoping earns money. He bought it because he liked the idea of having a mountain ski retreat available to him at any time. He's owned it 10 years, and aside from visiting it when he first bought it, he's never stepped foot in it. This guy was too much of a big shot to rent a vacation house. He only wanted to stay in ones he owned, even if he never visits it. His kids use it though for winter sports, so it's not completely empty all year. I saw a cute handbag at Harrods in London. Picked it up and about dropped it when I saw the price, £17,500. Only when I set it back down did I notice the security guard practically blending into the background. I stopped in Jeffrey's in Nick in vintage red boots I got for maybe $10 bucks. They tried to sell me a $10 K handbag that matched. I slowly walked out. Not an item, but the ability to make anything a reality. I saw a documentary on Candy Spelling covering the sale of her and her late husband's $150 million home and downsizing to a multiple floor penthouse. She wanted granite stone counters, a rose garden and a pool up there, so the developers had to change the building plans to accommodate her wishes. They acted like it was nothing to re-engineer an entire building. I worked on a sultan's jet once. The royal bedroom had mother-of-pearl light fixtures with fiber optic lighting, silk Venetian blinds, and white Vergine leather wall panels. The shower head was 24K gold. The carpet was also silk. You hit one button and a door would open on the nightstand and the remote would come out if a compartment in the nightstand. Blinds would close, door to entertainment center would open, and TV would come on. This was back in the late 90s. Before I left that job I did all the wiring for a fat Saudi Arabian banker that didn't want to wait for the escalator truck to let him off the plane. I installed the wiring for a fold-out escalator from the cargo bay to get his fat ass off the plane. The plane also had a disco room. It was a 747 with the 2 engines and they were enormous. I swear you could park a 4-door dually truck on the intake of that engine. Sometimes I miss that job. It was fun while it lasted. I worked at a hotel once that had a condo on the campus. A Saudi oil tycoon had the penthouse but he wasn't always there. When he would come he would rent all our suites, have all the meals at the hotel and his penthouse catered by the hotel, even though we didn't do catering, and would have housekeeping launder and press the sheets for the penthouse every night. They would also have us set up office equipment in the suites they rented. Every time they came they wanted a printer set up with some other things, and when they left they just didn't care what happened to the printers. After the second time we just saved them in the bell closet. I worked for a luxury catering company at my last job. I saw a lot of things I've never seen before, and I'll name a couple. 1. Worked a swingers ball where the upstairs floor was made of glass and all female partygoers had a dress code. Full stop. Full stop. Skirts. This was someone's house. 2. An art piece located at the back of someone's property was reflected to the front of the property by way of mirrors and specialized glass, I was told. Think hologram. 3. A house manager. Take all the responsibilities you have with your property and hand them over to someone else. Bills? They pay them. Need lawn trimmed? They schedule the lawn crew. Need laundry done? They hire it done for you? Need your car washed? They call out a crew. Need food? They get that lined up for you. I've seen a lot of other things that are notable, but I don't want to make my reply too long. Private planes. I have heard of many celebrities having to start doing tax evasion just to afford jet fuel. What do you even need private planes for? Just ride first class UAS. The appeal of the private jet is time. Commercial means having to be at the airport an hour early to check baggage and go through security. It might be delayed or be at an inconvenient time. A private jet leaves 5 minutes after you get there. A private tailor. Imagine having a staff that specifically sees and tailors your clothes to you. I would to have the money to hire someone like Bernadette Banner to just make an Edwardian wardrobe for me. Buying clothes off the rack? The staff knows specifically how to alter it to fit you perfectly. I want that lol.